Welcome to the 12th episode of Bored in Trouble. I'm your host, John X. Yeah, let's stir some shit up. This is the last free speech conversation before the election. Depending on what side you are on, you may feel that this is actually the last opportunity before Tuesday to get whatever you want off your chest. And if you were smart, unlike me, you wouldn't record it, so that way they can go back and listen to it like the Gestapo forces that they are and put me in the gulag. But guess what? I'm not that smart. So here we are with my illustrious guest. I'm going to start on top from down south by way of New York, Mr. Andrew Johnson.
What up, y'all? How y'all doing?
The illustrious, the man with the plan. Don't talk to him too much. He'll get in your head because that's his job. Anyway.
Can you have him talk to Aaron Judge?
Damn. Ooh, you be a little bit late for that one.
or Garrett.
And we're not talking baseball. Mr. Robert Brooks.
What up? Your Yankees took a tumble.
Yeah.
You drew a paycheck from the Phillies, but it just showed your original colors there. You just, was that a Yankee? A little bit of your old Yankee fandom coming out?
Like we were done. I was free and clear to watch and enjoy, and there was no conflicts. And yeah, that was some hot junk right there. Dodgers bad boys.
Was that the worst fifth inning in World Series history?
Had to be. And for him to not cover cover. Oh
yes.
Like those guys really deserve to lose.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I wasn't watching. I was watching the net game. Personally, I'm a basketball addict and I'm not a Yankee fan. So the only time I've seen the Yankees in the World Series, Mr. Brooks actually was nice enough to give me tickets to the first game that they ever played at the new Yankee Stadium. Thank you, Mr. Robert Brooks.
You're welcome.
Sorry that that team wasn't there last night, because that team kicked your guys' asses.
I'm a Mets fan, and after seeing what the Dodgers did to us, I knew the Yankees were not going to be too far behind us. I just knew they weren't going to beat them. So, but it was, in my opinion, the worst fifth inning in World Series history.
That fifth inning was atrocious, but I mean, that was, for the most part, that was just generally a butt whooping by the Dodgers. I mean, they came to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and God damn it, they didn't bring any gum with them. Well, shit, I guess we just gonna kick ass today then, and every day.
Yeah, sometimes you run into a buzzsaw. That Derek Jeter team back in the days when Charlie Hayes was playing third base for the Yankees, that was a buzzsaw team. It was a beautiful thing to watch. That was the last time I really watched baseball, watched it. Now I couldn't tell you who was who, playing out there. I used to be able to tell you, I'd be able to rank every player by position, when we were kids, Rob. I was like a big stats guy. But now it's just not a thing with me anymore.
You were also a guy who brought his own shovel to fill in the mound when it was your day to pitch.
That's correct. I sure did.
You're in big league.
I hated pitching though. I never wanted to be a pitcher. They just that was back in the day when Dwight Gooden came out, and every little league coach, my little league coach, he had a big black guy out there, and he was like, "Hey, maybe he's like Dwight Gooden, we'll give him a chance to pitch." Was not into it whatsoever. Not into it.
But I started pitching, and my normal position was center field, but they tried the same thing. They thought since I was black I could pitch.
Right.
And I had bases loaded, and I had 0-2 on the batter, and then I hit him. I threw the ball, hit him, and walked in the run, and I never got the pitch again.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I pitched, I was like, the other team's coach actually gave me a compliment. He was like, "You got good movement on that sinker." He was like, you should really take it serious. I was like, yeah, nah. I was over it. I was over baseball. It wasn't moving fast enough for me. Basketball moved much faster, was much more my speed. And, I like the mathematics of it. I think you have to be, in a way to play basketball well, I think you kind of have to have a type of genius, and especially if like you're working with less than what other guys have. Some guys can jump really high and they never really make an impact on a game. Other guys can dribble really well. They never make an impact on a game.
I've met some fabulous basketball players who I'm not sure that I would trust to substitute in for my my granddaughter's third grade math test. Like,
Well, I mean, listen,
some people can see the numbers, they can't articulate them. So maybe they're a genius in their own way. But I know some dudes like I call them Labradors because they're in your face and you're like, all right, on this play I need you to do X, Y, and Z now. And then they walk out there like, what the fuck? Didn't I just say?
Well, I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about your cerebral guys, your Magic Johnsons, your like people don't talk about Isaiah Thomas enough, man. That guy was. I think
he's a stone killer, man. Isaiah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that man was like, if it wasn't for the Michael Jordan marketing machine, we'd be talking about basketball completely and totally different than we do. But, listen, we can keep going on sports all day long, but I think we should just get into the show because it's the last possible opportunity for us to have these open conversations. And look, this may be the last time you ever see me with an afro.
What, you gonna fry it and lay it to the side if Trump wins, so you can look more like his people?
I don't know,
more
man.
like his brown shirt army.
You think I should get a process and get it like slicked back?
Lay it all back and say your mother was a mulatto.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. That's that conversation is upsetting to some people because you're talking about passing, and like that's kind of like a no-no.
Well, I think some of those people who were back then, I think they called it surviving.
Yeah, well, you know what? These people nowadays, they don't understand that. They don't grasp those concepts. They don't grasp the concept of the three of us who are we literally represent on this panel 3 different shades of black men. And this colorism that we've seen during the course of this entire election, to me, it's just, I expect it from white people, to a certain extent. But I don't expect it coming from people who come from like melanated cultures. And that's what's really been kind of disturbing to me. The fact that a lot of men are actually like considering voting for Donald Trump, or actually are voting for him or have already voted for him. That to me is disturbing because it's like these motherfuckers. I was talking to this dude on Twitter just yesterday. And I mentioned Stephen Miller, and he's like, "Why are you even bringing up some like innocuous white guy who I don't even like know who he is?" And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you're sitting up here, you're giving advice to people. You're giving advice to people about what should be happening and who they should be voting for, and you don't even know the players. How the fuck you do that? How does that work? This guy, Stephen Miller." Everyone should know him. He is the only person in that Trump administration who has been with Trump that is actually, besides his kin, his family, that has been with him the entire time. And he is the most dangerous one. Why is it that he is the only one? You don't know that shit and you're voting for this guy? It's like, to me, it's just like, it's lunacy. The way that people have had conversations about it, and I'm only getting into it now at the end of it. We've had a long social media break. The show has had like, a lot of weeks off with breaks. Part of it has been like me not really being 100% because of the different things that have been happening with me personally. And another part of that is just simply not wanting to have these conversations because these motherfuckers have really let me down. I can't let half of y'all in my house in a problem situation because I have to worry about letting you win with your guns and you like turn around and putting a gun to my head. They really don't have any type of awareness whatsoever about what an ally looks like and what an ally doesn't look like, and really basic survival skills. Do you guys have any thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah, well, I can tell you the low information voter, whether he's black or white, doesn't know hardly anything in the sense of politics. They vote on feelings. You know, I always tell them when I was teaching DEI and I'd have these political, I wouldn't call them debates because they were arguments. I wasn't trying to win. I was just, they were arguing with me. But a lot of them at the end, we have the conversation, and I would do just like things what you just said. Do you know who Stephen Miller is? Or do you know who this first person is? Do you know who Steve Bannon is? And all these, a lot of them didn't know. And so I would say, can I have your phone number? And they say, why? I says, because I want to sell it to some telemarketers because you'll buy anything. It doesn't matter. It's just, you got, there's about 45% of the country that it was going to vote for that letter R no matter what. That's just what it is. And trying to penetrate that is going to be difficult. However, in this election, you're hearing that there's a lot of black males voting for Trump, but that's actually really not that true. A lot of the ones that you're seeing on social media and all of these other different platforms, many of them aren't even registered to vote. A lot of them are just talking. And the one thing that the Trump campaign is struggling with right now is getting these people to the voting booths, because they're not, in many cases, they're not even registered. These are younger male voters who are the least likely to be registered. And even when they are, they're the least likely to vote. That's why you're seeing such a big difference with new voters, the newest voters who didn't vote in the 2020 election, but are old enough to vote now. Women are leading that number by a large margin because a lot of these guys are not going to vote. They're just talking.
So your belief is that it's more really talk than it is anything else.
Well, it's Trump is all smoke and mirrors. He gives you the illusion that he's doing good in certain things when he really isn't. So the truth of the matter is, pertaining to the election, Trump has a ceiling, and it's pretty much 47%. All right. He can get roughly about 47% of the country to vote for him. And that's pretty much as high as he can get. He didn't get that in 2016, and he didn't even get it in 2020. But that's his ceiling. So without a third party candidate in there to take some votes away from the Democratic candidate, he's probably down 3-4 points nationally. You combine that with what he said about Detroit, what he said about Puerto Ricans, what he said, about Milwaukee, even earlier in the year. I just don't see how he gets over the finish line with that 47%. And because I honestly think he's going to lose some of the support he got in 2020. I thought he maxed out his vote in 2020. So I think he's going to actually lose a little bit of support this go around. But that's just my humble opinion. But go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you finished your thought, Andrew, because you made me amend my question to Rob. Rob, you slept with a number of Puerto Ricans. Do you feel like, in your experience, do you think that they're going to go for the garbage thing?
They're going to be highly offended. But remember, a lot of Latins are Republicans. A lot of Latins lean Republican. So I mean, they can be a little bit off shit. I mean, the thing is, the part that I'm most worried about is that everybody is tribal, and that 47% are that he could look forward to. That's one way to look at it, divide the pie up. But how about the people for whom sexism is the greatest of the isms? The people who are now giving voice to the notion that any man is smarter than the smartest woman. like that like there's a lot you can say about her, and you got a bunch of people who are out there are saying that she slept her way to the top and she used, her body to get where she's going and what have you. The positions that she held are not positions you can sleep your way to. You can't sleep your way to be the Attorney General of the state of California. That's just not, you can't fuck enough people. You wouldn't have time. And, so she occupied that job. Whether you think she did a good job or a bad job in that office, she was smart enough to do the job. She graduated the law school. She's held the positions. And all these people who keep going on TV talking about she's dumb as a stump, just putting her down. Really what they're doing is putting down every woman. And so I worry about the people who are putting the D for dick, in front of the R.
Wow, that's really
good point.
That's how he got elected the first time. All these people who said Hillary, yeah, Hillary's great, and then they got in the booth and said, "Ain't no fucking way I'm making a woman president," especially not after we had a black guy for 8 years.
No, I think that was the telling point. They didn't want back-to-back minorities. Is what I thought. So yeah, you're right.
Well, I want you guys to listen to this.
A time is coming when women will leave the home and go into the world blindly, and yet feel that they are our equals. They will quickly become entitled, as we men will tell them any and everything they want to hear, because we will have no one to come home to. As their egos become more inflated by their vast amount of suitors, and yes, there will be vast amounts because we men are hunters by nature, the women will take longer to decide which of these men should become their life partner. The longer they take, the more hollow they will become, as they will end up in bed with most of these men, with each of these men taking away pieces of them. Once they do find a long-term partner, they will never be satisfied, as they enjoyed being preyed upon. This will lead them to leave their marriage and go back out into the world, seeking someone else to complete their hollow core. Sadly, this cycle will continue until they are in their 40s and are no longer desirable prey. But what of the children, you might ask? Yes, what of the children? Indeed. The home life that we value will be no more. Most of these women will have children by several different men, while others will have no children at all, as they will go to extreme measures to prevent this from happening. My friends, I hope you value your family today, as your children will not be so fortunate tomorrow. I can only pray that God watches over them through life. What a world it will be. With that, I will say good night. I hope you've enjoyed this look into the future through clear eyes.
Was that written by Kevin Samuels or by the guy who used to do the attractions at Disney World?
That was actually a clip from the 1950s, a radio broadcast to men warning them about, I guess, the evils of women whatsoever.
Yeah.
And by the way, before we keep going with this, I'm going to go and backtrack and say that I also have been blessed and lucky to sleep with a number of Puerto Rican women as well, and you're wonderful people.
Hey, I'm married to one right now.
There you go. We're backtracking all the way around here. Everything. Let's not be mad. It is definitely not a garbage island or a garbage place, but that was some garbage from the 1950s, but was it?
What game are you playing? When you're looking at whether that's garbage or not, the question becomes, what game are you playing? Like, okay. The playing field shifted when all that was going on. The playing field shifted, unbeknownst to all of us, and so the rules of the game have to change too, don't they? Slightly.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Trump is so popular, because they're actually trying to change a lot of the rules back. A lot of these incels on social media, their leaders have been calling for things that are basically rolling back the clock. Some of them want to roll back the amendment that allows the women's suffrage vote. They feel that, one quote that I saw from one of these guys, I forget who it was, said, we don't want them to vote anymore. They'll vote for wars, they'll vote for abortions, they'll vote for ruining the world. And that's the reason why they must be stopped right now. And a vote for Trump is a vote for stopping all of that. A vote for Trump is a vote for bringing this guy back to a point where we can go back to fear-mongering about these things, because the reality is that the women are captive. And there are a lot of men, we're very progressive. And I find it very interesting, like to me, whenever I go on Twitter, and I just think in terms of common sense, like Rob, you're a girl dad. I know that for sure. Andrew, I'm not sure, what that, but me personally, I'm definitely a girl dad. I'm definitely a girl dad. There's no denying that fact, and the way that they have things going now and the way that they're pushing for things right now, there are a lot of men that really want to see women in bondage.
Yes.
And not in the playful way. You know? So this is what you're voting against. This is what these people are actually voting for. Never in my lifetime have I seen an election that's so polarized under these, where it's really literally good versus evil. And you would never really understand what good versus evil looks like. Good versus evil is evil saying that good is actually evil and evil is actually good. And even to say that, it's like to be able to say that, it's terrible because we all know that the Democrats aren't good. We know they're not great people. We know that these people are not they're not really like great humanitarians either. They live in the same system that we live in. If you're a registered Democrat, you live in the same system. You want your things too. You want your shit too. You carry your guns. And that's the part that's really weird. We have our guns, we have our God, and we have all these different things. But a lot of these guys, they confuse misogyny with machoism. And they automatically feel that because you don't feel like women should be like one should be underneath my desk right now, that you're somehow weak. I just find it very odd. I find these times very odd and troubling. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I mean, you brought up that term girl dad, and obviously there's lots of girl dads on the planet, but how many girl dads go out on the daily and betray, the women in their lives? Like just disregard them. And they all, they'll all say they're girl dad and they'll all be all about that. But then the hard work of actually respecting them and creating a safe space for them. Like a buddy of mine, I used to joke, Stu, that I used to work with, we used to say, there's a lot you can say about me, but you can't say that I sexually harassed anybody. It's really not that fucking hard to leave them alone in the office.
Right.
Unless, of course, you just feel entitled.
Right.
Then you have zero boundaries, which a lot of this generation of video game playing, people who just didn't get out and socialize enough and figure out like where the world's boundaries are and how to interact with other people. Like they struggle with that, but like, and then, the old power dynamics, that's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andrew, would you say that's true what Rob just said, that a lot of these like young incels, they really just don't understand the power dynamic?
No. Well, it's it's a little tricky for them because, the further and further away Black men are from the civil rights movement, the more they're prone and susceptible to these types of messaging. And so the incel guys are prone to these types of messaging saying that women are incapable, they're incapable or they're not as good as or not as intelligent as. One of the things I've had a problem with a lot of the red pill community, and I've had several arguments with a bunch of them before, is just that they're going on this assumption that they're superior because they're men, because they're stronger, they think differently and everything like that. So when I hear them say that, I says, well, who were your school teachers when you were growing up? Most of your school teachers were women because there's not that many male school teachers anymore. So the people who have shaped your mind and have developed you to graduate high school or even college are women. So they have to be equal to you in some capacity or some shape or form, maybe not physically. And maybe you can come up with better ideas, maybe a little bit more creative than they are in certain situations. But honestly speaking, they are an integral part of our society. You want to sit here and say that you want them to go back in the kitchen? What the whole red pill Trump movement is essentially about is pre-civil rights. Now they can't say come right out, although they are pretty much saying it, that they are going back to pre-civil rights. You know, the big thing that they're trying to do, if you look through that Project 2025 thing, is if that Trump does get into power, they want to restrict women's right to vote. They don't
Yeah.
even want them voting anymore. So,
Yeah,
at that, you see
before.
what I'm saying? Yeah. So if they're trying to do that, that's all you need to know. And the reason being is, on average, in presidential election, 10 million more women vote than men. And so on average, that's the average. So now you got this year, we've had a fundamental change in the law since the Dobbs decision in 2022, is that women now are voting in higher numbers than they were prior to the Dobbs decision. And so if that's the case, that makes it more difficult for this group to get into office and get into power in certain situations. That's why when you saw in 2022, they were talking about the red wave and it turned out to really be a red ripple, is because that Dobbs decision, the Democratic side just outperformed the numbers. And so what I see happening, and this is just my theory, it may not be true at all, but what I see happening is the numbers you're seeing in the polls, they're underestimating the Democratic turnout and they're overestimating the conservative turnout this go round, just in this next year coming up. Because a lot of the polls that you're seeing that's coming out are basically saying it's tied. And even the big poster guy, I forgot his name, he's saying that he thinks the polls are they're just making up a number because they don't want to come across as being wrong. So they keep saying it's always tied. And so, because they don't want to be the one who looks like that the prediction was way off.
I think what it is that they just don't want to be perceived in this particular climate as choosing and picking a side.
Sure.
And I think that's more of it. But I've been listening to, and I've been reading in a lot of places, trying to get an idea of what the rhetoric is actually telling me and what a lot of people are saying. And while I'm getting these, these numbers of these black men that assume, and I want to get back to them. I do want to get back to them. But these black men that are supposedly not voting for Trump or voting for Trump, what I'm getting is a lot of people that are saying, like, Trump went too far on January 9th. Trump has gone too far, January 6th.
January 6th, yeah.
He's gone too far with a lot of these things. And a lot of people just don't want to see him as president. And I'm not looking in my bubble. I'm not looking for people inside of my bubble. Like, this is what they do. Like, what they're going to say is, and we all know that they set it up so that way, if and when he does lose or whatever that may happen, they can say, hey, the fix was in the entire time. So they're never going to admit that he was just outvoted. They can't fathom how people don't like him. They can't. It's just like, it just doesn't even go through your mind. What, this guy who's running with, like, a KKK guy who's like writing all of his speeches and the only one who stuck with him, you don't like him? You don't like this guy who hasn't paid his contractors? You don't like this guy? It's like everybody loves him. And this is what it comes down to. A lot of people I deal with. I saw the other day, Amber Rose, actually I saw it today, Amber Rose is actually holding an event on Saturday. The Amber Rose We Fuck With Trump strip show.
You go, girl.
There you go.
Yeah,
I might I would set up a vending booth to sell some product, but I don't think there's going to be more than 10 people there.
Well, my thing is, did she troll Trump? Did she troll him? Because now, right before the election, she's having a strip event. Is this really an attempt to
no,
get?
But that's how debauched and how debased that side has allowed the conversation to become. Like, all of these things, and the list of them is way too long now to even start to dive into. But there are so many things that used to be disqualifiers for even being on the ballot. And he has just destroyed those norms over the last couple of years, to the point now where, yeah, people talking about, you can have a warm-up act at your rally, a rally that you bragged about for weeks. You could have a warm-up act come up there and make a disgusting comment about Puerto Ricans, and then go on TV afterwards and be like, oh, I didn't hear what he said. That's just somebody that had to, like, really? Once upon a time, the buck stopped here, right? Teddy Roosevelt said, all the BS aside, I'm the president, the buck stops here. This motherfucker can't even let the buck stop with him for a rally that he's having. And he's supposed to be the ultimate arbiter here in the country.
He didn't come out and say, I'm sorry. He didn't come out and say, I'm wrong.
He never does.
No, he never does.
You know, but in a large way, though, he's making a lot of, see, to me, like, when I look at that and I hear, like, you know, I see Puerto Ricans say, I'm still voting for this guy and everything, or even, like, you know, like laughing roast, like, listen, you know, after he says that about you, you know, if you're going to vote about him, you shouldn't be telling nobody, because that doesn't make you look good. It makes you look like a simp. But
yeah,
on the other side, go ahead.
But you know what, John, a lot of people are not aware of this. You know, Hispanics vote Democrat essentially 2-1. So it's a 65-35 sort of split, maybe a little bit higher, you know, depending on who's running. But Puerto Ricans actually vote about 70-30 Democrat. Now, I think, because there's two things. I mean, y'all know Puerto Rican, from New York and all these areas. Yeah, there's two things you don't do to a Puerto Rican person. One is disrespect the island, and the other one is disrespect their flag. I mean, those are the two biggest things that you just can't do. I mean, that's just their nature. And so you the number, instead of being 70-30, is probably going to be more closer now, maybe 85-15 or 90-10. And the other thing too with that rally, a lot of people are focusing on what he said about Puerto Ricans, but they disrespected Black people in that rally.
Oh,
they disrespected other Latinos when they said they don't pull out and all of that stuff. I mean, it wasn't just, I mean, we're focusing on a Puerto Rican issue, but they went after everybody.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they took shots at everybody.
They felt fully enabled. Like all the handcuffs were removed. They were like, "Yo, we good. We going into the wrecking shop today." Yeah.
Well, the only thing I could say about that is that if you're someone that was insulted on that podium and you're still going out, there are people that come out and say that they're still voting for Trump, and they say it vociferously. It's great for me, because now I know who definitely not to fuck with, ever. Because you don't have no fucking pride. I've said it a million times on this show. Like, you know, I have people that I consider to be friends in every race on this planet. Every race on this planet. Actual friends. I have acquaintances and I have friends in each one of these groups. And one of the prerequisites of being a friend of mine is not being a bitch, you know. And when I say not being a bitch, I mean, like, yo, don't be a bitch. Like, listen, if I say something that's really fucking mean and heinous towards a white person that is supposed to be my friend, and that motherfucker don't check me, we got a problem. We have a problem. If I say something that's wrong and off the hook, we got a problem, because if you let me get away with it, I'm going to think that there's something about you. You know, if I say something that's out of pocket, you know, and we all know what out of pocket is, because as Black people, we heard, as Black people and Hispanic people, Puerto Rican people, you know, if you want an example of out of pocket, listen to Tony Hinchcliffe. Everything that motherfucker said was like out of pocket, right? That's the only requisite. Be a fucking man. Like, I get it. I get, like, you know, the whole thing about masculinity and wanting to be a man and everything. But you slapping a woman or fucking a woman or forcing yourself upon a woman, that don't make you a fucking man. That's not what the shit is.
Well, John, is punching down. It's punching down. It's like you don't punch up. You know, punching up is difficult. You know, they're punching down. It's like, you know, whenever I use the word bitch, 9 times out of 10, I'm referring to a man. I'm not. I don't. The word doesn't even go to a woman anymore
I'm
because
saying.
most bitches are men
I'm saying.
nowadays. You know,
Yeah.
in a current, you know, market we're in right now,
Right.
is, you know, that's just the way it is.
There's no sexual connotation or there's no gender connotation that's attached to it in that way. And that way, that's like the same thing about the F word, I won't say. That, you know, when describing a certain community, a lot of times it's not really necessarily, it's really just another way of calling somebody a bitch, you know, and that's got nothing to do with who you, that's all your personality. I'm telling you right now, if I've ever called you a name like that, I fucking meant it. And this is how I meant it. You know, this is just who I am. It's just like, it is what it is. I have to say it. I have to speak the way that I can, that I express myself in the best way. But if you take offense to it and everything, then fuck you too. You know, honestly. But I can't get behind people who just came out and they just said, oh, you know, it's just a joke. You know what I'm saying? He don't really mean that about us. He loves us. You know what I'm saying? I already know the motherfucker don't love me.
Did you see his performance today?
Nah.
What the truck, the garbage truck that you're
Well,
talking about?
I mean, the garbage truck and the speech in the reflective vest. Somebody, I'm not sure who told him that was a good idea, but somebody said that was his Michael Dukakis moment.
It might be,
but no, he gets up there. He's in New Mexico, and he's like, basically, he goes like, you know, why am I here? You know, because at first he goes, why am I here? You know, the Latins, they love Trump. So he starts off referring to himself in the third person. He goes, why am I here? Well, basically, because it'll be good for my credentials with the Latin community. He basically said, I'm here because I fucked up, because somebody thought I fucked up and I need to clean up. Like he was, but like in a trolling way, like in a way that's complete, like, oh, my PR people put me here because somebody screwed up. Ha ha ha.
I'm on the panda team.
Yeah.
It was
it
was an astonishing work of political speech.
Do y'all have any empanadas while I'm up here in this garbage can? You know, I'm kind of hungry. You know what I'm saying? Throw a brother some arroz con pollo while you're at it.
I'm sure somebody's got some churros in the house.
You know, it's like this is like, you know, Rob, you know, you and I, definitely, you know, large part of our culture, a lot of our friends were, you know, Hispanic.
Oh, Brentwood, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Puerto Rican in Brentwood.
Yeah, like, you know, it's my boys.
It's like 80% of the population in Brentwood when we were growing up.
Yeah, like, you know, a lot of our boys, like that was it, and everything. I just can't, like, you know, some cats I see and I'm like really, really proud of them stepping up and everything. But some of these motherfuckers, like, I'm glad that we were all old and we look different. And I can tell you now, if you're like, I'm going to put this out as a snippet too. So that way they understand. This way they can see it and everything. If I see you motherfuckers and like that, and, you know, you got older and I don't recognize you and shit, just do us both a favor and just don't say hi. Just walk fucking by, nigga. Nobody want to hear from you. Nobody wants. I don't have respect. I have no respect for that. I have no respect for these black men, these that are sitting up here and just talk about the stuff. It's like, I just have to get into this before the last thing, you know, before we go and everything, because we're running up. But the whole Kamala thing, and is she black? Is she Indian? You know, and, you know, you would think that it would pass over time, but you have these black people that are getting paid. These motherfuckers are getting paid. It's the only reason why you get up on fucking Twitter and TikTok every day and say Kamala isn't black. That's changing the bane of my existence. Kamala wasn't black for the first 30-something, 20-something years that you were on this planet. If you feel that way, you know what I'm saying? She ain't affect that shit. Don't have nothing to do with the quality of her character. It's got nothing to do with the character. You know, one candidate watches 15-year-old girls get dressed in a dressing room at a pageant, so that way he could see which ones he wants to go and attempt to grab by the punani and everything. And the other one was a district attorney and, is Jamaican. And everybody that knows Jamaicans are everything. They're everything. You know what I'm saying? They come from the island, they're Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? How much does it fucking matter? Like, honestly, I see somebody that went to Howard University. When I went to Howard, there were Hispanics that went to Howard University. Why did they go to Howard University instead of going to another university? Because they were dark Hispanics. And they got a better shake and they got a better break and they got better educations and they didn't have to worry about all that colorist bullshit. And now we have our supposedly members of the Black diaspora pushing this colorist bullshit. You motherfuckers, like, all I think about is, like, if Malcolm X were alive today, what the fuck would you say about his light-skinned ass? He's a light-skinned. We can't listen to this nigga. He's light-skinned. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, the shit that these people say, I've seen these people today online attack Chuck D.
Wow.
Chuck D.
What they attacking Chuck D about?
They were attacking Chuck D because Chuck D had put out something about, he had put out a statistic and everything. I would have to really look it up. I probably will look it up, but he had put out some type of statistic. And it was basically, once again, doing what Chuck D does. He kind of pointed out some of the racist stuff that goes on and how, these things affect, everything. And these people are like, yeah, he's a Democratic shill. Hey, he's a Democratic shill. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Nation of millions to hold us back. That's the motherfucker that you want to go after. And in the meantime, you know what I'm saying? I asked one of these dudes who's supposedly so quote unquote black, who Stephen Miller is, and this motherfucker don't know. You don't know your enemies, but you know the people that are your allies. You attack your allies and you give your enemies a pass because of whiteness. You're fucking broken bucks. I can't do it. I can't listen to it. I can't do it anymore. It's like, and then this dude came back to me. He told me, like, Generation X, you guys are the worst and everything. You owe us. You've taken us. The motherfucker. I don't listen. I know the kids that I owe something to. I'm pretty sure that I paid those debts, and I fucking have given them that guidance. And hopefully I'll be here for a long time to continue to do that. But I'm not responsible for. You're responsible for you. And it's just really a bunch of weird shit. Oh, here's what it is. Chuck D posted 6 million black people migrated from post-slavery, Jim Crow, etc. in the USA from 1915 to 1975. Remember that number. It's important to know why. They tried to make it sound like he was comparing it to immigration and saying that black people were like immigrants at that point in time. There were many reasons for the northern migration. One of them is that you couldn't get a fair shake in the South. My parents migrated from the South to the North. Any thoughts on attacking Chuck D?
Unfortunately, there's too many
I'm not
people who have
surprised.
access to a microphone now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What was that?
Too many people with access to a microphone these days. Unfortunately, everybody's allowed to have a voice, even the knuckleheads.
That's what it is. And some people would say that about us too.
And for some of them, they'll be right. And some of them are absolutely out of their fucking mind.
Definitely out of their fucking mind. I mean, look, if anybody deserves a microphone, we've at least put in the hours. Robert and I, we both have FCC licenses because they're lifetime, they're forever.
Mine is somewhere in existence. I think mine might still be in the book at CBS Radio. I think mine's still in the studio at CBS Radio.
No idea where mine is,
Well,
but
I don't think I took it with me.
you know. So anyway, you know, guys, I'm gonna have to run because I gotta get to Ticketmaster so I can get my tickets to the Amber Rose We Fuck with Trump show because
Well, you'll
You know,
be the only black man there.
I'll be the only black man there.
Unfortunately, you know that is not true. You know, a fat
Well,
ass,
you know what?
a fat
tell
ass,
you
they
what.
will ignore everything else. The fat ass.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you and a few of them incels.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would rub lotion on her butt cheeks and I would tell her everything that she needs to hear. And she would be very disappointed when she asked me to vote for her guy because of the fact that I've already voted. So
I cast my ballot today.
cast your ballot today.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to do something in the spirit of like old school voting, and I'm not going to disclose who I voted for.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
This is but you know what? This is the presidential election where you have such a contrast of the old white man versus the pretty black woman. And me being a black man, I got to take the pretty black woman.
Well, you know, a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people don't feel that way. A lot of people,
I know they don't.
They, you know, they don't want to. You know, I mean, look, if Amber Rose was running and she came out in the thong, I mean, after the 100th appearance, she might sway my vote. You know, but that's not what she's doing. What she's doing.
I'm not sure that she has the credentials.
Well, you know what, though?
If she were credentialed and she were to run,
we could talk about that over breakfast. You know.
Remember I was saying about girl dads betraying their trust.
Yes. Oh, that would be me.
Trust the big button, a smile.
Yeah.
A smile. Listen, I'm definitely a girl dad. My girl knows her dad for sure. So when I start talking inappropriately, she just goes, but you got here somewhere, somehow. You know, so it is what it is. Born in Trouble. I'll be damned if I know what episode. It's been a very spotty year on Born in Trouble. But at least we still exist. A lot of podcasts have actually folded up their tents this year. A lot of podcast organizations have folded up their tents this year because it seems to be thinning out. And it could be in anticipation of the coming laws that are coming forth where you're no longer allowed to speak bad about certain groups of people.
What group is that?
Black people, don't worry about it. If you make your living getting on black people, you're going to be safe.
You're good there.
You'll always be able to pile on black folks.
We'll always target. But hey, listen, I just hope for my Hispanic friends, my Puerto Rican friends, that they, hey, chicken's coming home to roost for some of y'all. But
my goal is, I hope them 1 million Puerto Ricans in Florida flip that state blue.
That would be
I doubt it, but I still
that would be something. Yeah, they're not voting.
You better get some buses and start busing people to the polls right now.
Yeah, they're not that's not happening and everything. And I understand why. Listen, I always say if I was a Hispanic person, I'd live in Florida. I'd be in Florida. It's like Florida is like, that's like their land. You know, my wifey was saying that she had a friend that had posted up on her Facebook. She went to Miami. She was in Miami and she was beefing. Oh my God, nobody here speaks English. Why the fuck do they all speak Spanish? And I'm like, damn, you ain't never been to Miami, obviously.
Because Miami, it's even worse now because it's they could be speaking Spanish. They're just as likely to be speaking some Eastern European language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's on down there.
It's on, but it's not. But it's like, what are you complaining about? There's nothing to complain about. This is America. America it's like a place where everybody comes and they all try to make it better. I was going to do a thing. One of the things I forgot to do.
Do they really? Or do they just try to make their own way?
No, they do. But one of the things that I forgot to do today was I really was going to prepare for this really and do a piece about, the economics of racism. And we've talked about it. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and how racism just basically it's just a bad economic plan for any country, especially when it's attempting to feed multiple sources. And I hope that after this election is over, I'm not going to lie, I hope that this election goes one way, and that's Kamala Harris ends up being president. I don't really care. I don't really care for her as much as some people might think. And I'd be completely and totally okay if someone else were to take that seat 4 years from now, as long as that person is not one of these assholes. Yeah, Republicans have to stop nominating these assholes to run for you. The last decent person that you had run for president, in my mind's eye, was John McCain. Great American. Didn't necessarily agree with everything, but at least he loved his country and he was real about his shit. Me and John McCain could have been boys. His daughter, I wouldn't even fucking kick her out of bed and everything, because she's one of those people that I was discussing earlier that me and her can never be friends. We can never be friends because she lets people talk about her father so badly, and then she backs them. Not only does she allow them to talk about him, she basically empowers them to disrespect him even further. We could never be friends, me and Megan McCain. It's just like, we could be ideologically the same person, but that shit, it's unforgivable. And with this being the end of the end of Born in Trouble pre-election, the pre-election series and everything, I just wanted to make sure that I got here and I got on my soapbox and I let people know that, this has been a rough year for me. You guys know it, Rob, you know it, starting from the beginning of this time. I've always been here talking and doing my thing, and this has been a tough one. But as I go through this, as you can see with my big fucking hair and my scars on my neck and, my raspy voice, based upon some of the things, one of the reasons why I've continued and why I want to keep doing the show is because in social media, you have so many people out there showing people on their best foot, and they only want to put their best foot forward. And I'm human, I'm flawed. And I just want everybody to see my flaws and everything. It's not going to be forever. You're going to see as it gets better and better over time, everything. And, but it's okay, basically, to be a little bit down and have to come up. That's that character that we all need and that we're all going to need moving forward. So for Born in Trouble, I'd just like to pay peace. Andrew Johnson, do you have any last words?
No, but other than the fact that I'm hoping the next time we come on, we'll be saying President-elect Harris.
Well, that one's going to linger for a couple of weeks, but that's all. That's all. And Mr. Robert Brooks, do you have any last words?
I second Andrew's words there. Hopefully, when next time we come together, we are saying President-elect Harris. It's putting an awful lot of faith in some people who, this cake, it's been baking for a lot of years. You can't just, everybody thinks like you just go in like, you know what? I don't want eggs in my cake anymore. So I'm just going to go in and take the eggs out. You can't just go in and get the eggs out, without destroying the cake. You got to eat it. We stuck with this world that we built with this racism baked deeply into it. We got to bake a new cake. We can't just fucking take the racism out. And, hopefully, I'm not going to be ridiculous and talk about that. Like white people started talking that post-racial shit when Obama got elected. That was the most hilarious shit ever. If I hear anybody start talking post-racial shit, that'll make me lose mine.
Welcome to post-racial America, everybody. And that's what it is.
Like, and hopefully, you know, women, you know, taken from the blacks. You saw what happened. You know, they started talking that post-racial shit. Black people are no better off after Obama than we were before Obama. You know, except for the people who can get a job doing Obama impersonations. Their life has been tremendous since Obama. But the rest of us, we still black people. Y'all will still be women, even though the highest political officer in the country is a woman. Y'all will still be a woman.
But you don't want to
have the hill to climb.
You don't want to put it that way. You'd rather have them think that it would be a little bit easier if a woman is actually president. You know, I mean, you may take, like I saw Kamala, one interesting thing that Kamala was doing was those interviews when she was like, look, girl, we know that your man is kind of violent. We know that he may do X, Y, and Z. And we understand that. You tell him that you voted for Trump. But when you get behind that ballot and you pull that lever, nobody can make you vote any other way other than what you wanted to vote. And she literally said that. It was like, she was like speaking to the battered women of America.
That was like a talking point for like a weekend, because a couple of the surrogates had said that too on the stump.
Oh, because they want to make sure that they heard it, and they should hear that. You know, listen, misogyny doesn't make you a man. You know, I was talking to a guy who was probably the most misogynistic person that I've met in my life, or at least in the past couple of years today. I told Rob the story before, but I'm not going to tell everything, you know, before the show, but completely and totally a misogynist, but he had certain things right. And basically what he was saying is that the reason why these guys don't get laid is because they don't know how to communicate to women at all. And they think that, you know, just like really pushing them. And he's basically a misogynist prick. He's probably as dirty, and he'll be the first one to tell you. I met him on the phone today, and he told me he was a misogynist prick in a short period of time. You got to love that type of honesty, one way or the other. But he is what he is. But he was explaining, it's just because you don't know how to talk to these women. If you knew how to talk to them, then you wouldn't have to be a dick all the time. And maybe after this election, we should be having conversations with these guys to help them get laid. And, you know, also to help these women stop thinking about men as being just like, you know, people to pay for your dinner. So, but we can't fix those problems today. Bored in trouble. Thanks, guys, for showing up. No, I've been inconsistent. We're going to try to do this once again next week, and then we'll probably take a week off. We're not going to do regular shows. We're not going to do that. Happen. Not right now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to, you know, like if you wanted to, you know, let's just say things turn out in a way that people who kind of think like us would enjoy, and then we wanted to do like a little show to celebrate, and then maybe we did like a follow-up show in which we, you know, danced on the other guy's grave a little bit. That would be mean and out of character, but sometimes, you know, you got to be out of character. Like,
mean and out of character. I don't know. Some people would say it's not really that much out of character, but you know,
hey, they would do it to us.
well, he would do it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, you know, I was told that my last Facebook post when I went live was a little bit mean because I said someone had a big head. But look, if you got a big head, you got a big head.
You know, it happens.
I didn't do it.
Go talk to your parents about that.
Exactly. Anyway, we're in trouble. Nice talking to you guys. Peace.